Level 1, the beater. 190,000 miles on the odometer, and the check engine light hasn't turned off in 8 months. You stop noticing it the way you stop noticing a scar. The car starts most mornings. Most isn't all. On the mornings it doesn't. You sit in the driver's seat turning the key like negotiating with something that owes you nothing. You learn to carry jumper cables the way other people carry umbrellas, a small ritual against an inevitability. The mechanic down the street knows you by name now, not because you're a good customer, because you're a frequent one. He quotes you $400 for the alternator, and you ask if it can wait. He looks at you the way doctors look at patients who ask if the surgery can wait. It can, until it can't. You budget gas in $20 increments because filling the tank means the number on the pump climbs past what you have room for. Reliable isn't a word that applies to your car. Reliable is a word other people use, the way people use words like vacation or savings. Abstractions that describe a life adjacent to yours. Your car breaks down on the highway during rush hour. You put the hazards on and stand outside it while cars pass. Each one a small reminder that mobility is something you're currently failing at. A stranger stops. Not a tow truck, a stranger, because you can't afford the tow truck yet. He helps you push it to the shoulder and drives off without asking for anything. And you sit there grateful in a way that has nothing to do with the car. The first rule, at the beater tier, reliable doesn't mean the car works. It means it worked today, and you don't ask about tomorrow. Level 2, the used sedan. 90,000 miles, no check engine light, a car you bought instead of inherited into. You paid $8,000 for it and financed half at 14%, a rate that felt like a punishment for a decision that was supposed to be an improvement. It starts every morning without negotiation. That alone feels like luxury after the beater, the simple absence of dread when you turn the key. You still check the oil obsessively, a habit built from years of cars that punished neglect. Your coworker asks what you drive and you tell him, and he nods without judgment, without curiosity. The car has become invisible in the way normal things are invisible. You take it on a road trip, 4 hours each direction, and it doesn't overheat, doesn't stall, doesn't strand you somewhere with no signal and no plan. The trip itself becomes memorable specifically because nothing went wrong, which is its own strange kind of achievement. You get a flat tire on the interstate and you're annoyed, not afraid, because you have a spare and you know how to use it, and the car isn't held together by hope the way the last one was. Reliable starts meaning something closer to its actual definition here, not the absence of catastrophe, but the presence of basic competence. The second rule, at the used sedan tier, reliable means the car does what it's supposed to do, and you're still surprised every time it does. Level 3, the new economy car. 0 miles when you drove it off the lot. A smell you'd only heard described before, never experienced. The warranty covers everything for 3 years, a concept that feels foreign after a decade of cars that came with nothing but risk. You finance it at 6%, a number that would have sounded impossible 5 years ago and now feels ordinary. The dealer doesn't mention your credit struggles because there aren't any left to mention. You drive it home and park it carefully, angling it slightly to avoid the door dings from the car next to it, a level of attention you never gave the beater because there was nothing left to protect. Reliable stops being the primary concern entirely. You think about fuel efficiency instead, about the infotainment system, about whether the seats are comfortable on long drives, questions that only exist once survival stops being the question. Your car gets rear-ended in a parking lot and the damage is minor, a scuff on the bumper, but you're irrationally upset in a way you never were about the beater's dents, because this car represents something the beater didn't, evidence that things can improve. The third rule, at the new economy tier, reliable becomes assumed, and once something is assumed, you stop being grateful for it and start expecting more. Level 4, the luxury sedan. Leather seats that adjust 12 different ways, a dashboard that talks back to you, a price tag that would have bought 3 of your first car. You lease it instead of buying, a decision that would have seemed insane at every level below this one, paying for something you'll never own outright. But the monthly payment fits comfortably now, doesn't require math done in a parking lot, doesn't require choosing between the car payment and something else. The dealership treats you differently the moment you walk in, offers you coffee in a real mug, not a paper cup, sits you in a private office instead of a shared desk on a showroom floor. Reliable isn't even a word anyone uses here. It's assumed so completely that the conversation moves straight to comfort, to status, to what the car says about you, rather than whether it'll start in the morning. You take it to the dealership for routine maintenance and they give you a loaner car, a courtesy that feels absurd when you remember pushing your old car to the shoulder yourself. The fourth rule: at the luxury tier, reliable is invisible, replaced entirely by a different question. Not does it work, but what does it say? Level 5, the exotic. A car that costs more than a house in most parts of the country, one of maybe a few thousand made that year. You don't drive it daily. It lives in a climate-controlled garage and comes out for specific occasions, treated less like transportation and more like art that happens to move. The maintenance costs alone exceed what you used to spend annually on your entire life at the beater tier. A mechanic flies in from another state to service it because local shops don't carry the expertise. Reliable has transformed into something almost theoretical, an assumption so deep it never enters conversation, the way you don't discuss whether your house has a roof. People stop and stare when you're stopped at a red light. Phones raised, a level of attention that has nothing to do with need and everything to do with rarity. The fifth rule: at the exotic tier, the car stops being about function entirely, becomes a signal so loud it drowns out the original question of whether it even works. Level 6, the private jet. You stop driving places you used to fly commercial for. The car becomes almost irrelevant compared to how you actually move through the world now. A driver picks you up in something quiet and comfortable, takes you to a private terminal where there's no line, no gate, no wait, just a plane with your name attached to the schedule instead of a boarding group. Reliable at this altitude means something entirely different. It means the pilot has thousands of hours, means redundant systems on redundant systems, means a level of engineering most people will never interact with in their entire lives. You board and take off within minutes of arriving, a contrast so extreme from waiting on a highway shoulder for a stranger to help push your car that the two experiences barely belong to the same category of existence. Somewhere right now, someone is turning a key in a car that might not start, carrying jumper cables like a small ritual against an inevitability, budgeting gas in $20 increments because the number on the pump climbs past what they have room for. They don't know yet that reliable is a word that changes meaning at every tier, that the question was never really about the car. You are the same person behind every wheel. The vehicle just decides how the world measures the risk of you moving through it.